software here as well. Okay, so my recording software up and going. So again, that's under Fixed Drive M, ISO, Linux distros, Ubuntu, and then 18.4. A real quick, this is a side piece, put it in your notes. Ubuntu labels their releases by year, month. So that means that that particular distro was released in 2018, April. Now I choose that one because that's an LTS. LTS stands for long-term service. That means that they guarantee that they will update that with security patches for 5 years. I need to unlock it. All right? Give me 1 second. All right, there you go, Trayvon. That should let you on. Yep.
You said long-term service?
Long-term service, yep. And what that means is they promise to support that for 5 years. And that's important for you to know as an administrator that there's going to be security patches released for that operating system. Because when it's out of band, so they did release an 1810, but it isn't an LTS. That means that if you install that for your users or for your server, there's a chance that they won't update it. Right? If there's security issues, you know, they'll guarantee it for like 2 or 3 years, but they won't guarantee it for the 7 years or 5 years, whatever it is. Right? So kind of keep that stuff in mind. All right. So I'm recording this. And as we move through, I need you to ask me questions. And if I go too fast, don't be afraid to say I don't understand what you're talking about or you're going a little bit too fast. All right? We're going to talk about virtualized environments today, and these are known as hypervisors. All right? Hypervisors is the generalized term for virtualization. We are going to use a product called VMware Workstation. I'm using 12. You still have access to 12, but if you use 15, you should be okay on your home computer. We're using 12 because we're having problems with 15 running in the lab, and we haven't had enough time to track down the problem. There's a permissions problem that won't let you be able to set up some networking stuff. And in a networking class, it's kind of important for you to be able to set up networking stuff, right? So we're just stuck back on 12, which isn't a big deal. So you're going to look around, and you're going to find the VMware Workstation Pro. This is what it looks like. You're going to double-click on that, and you're going to open it up. This is what it kind of looks like. Yours will be empty. If you want to know where to get that, you can actually click on My Profile, okay? You should be able to see this. And you can click on the CSIT web store, and you can download VMware Pro 12 for free, along with all the other software. If you've never used this before, you just gotten that email, and you're like, what's that, trash? It's $100,000 worth of software for free. All right? You get anything that's Microsoft, you can get for free. The limitation is you can't use it in a production environment. So what that means is if you want to start a company, you can't use their free software to start your company. You have to go out and buy it. This is DreamSpark. So yeah, it has all the Microsoft stuff, but it has VMware stuff. There's 2 different DreamSparks out there. There's ours, the CSIT. Do you see how it says Computer Science and Information Technology? That's ours. That's everything free. It doesn't cost you anything. But the university has one, and if you were to go to there and try to download Windows 10, I think it costs like 10 or 15 bucks.
Because I just have to get it for another class.
Right. So this is where you want to go. Yep. Don't worry about that. Yeah. Just be patient. Be patient. You're being too clicky-pantsy. All right. So that's where you're going to get everything you need. You can come in here. You can get VMware for free. That's a $250 piece of software. You can download any operating system you want and experiment with it, including Ubuntu and other Linux distributions. So this gives us a nice, safe environment. So after we've downloaded that, I'm going to come back to VMware. Trayvon, stop being a clicky pants. All right. On these machines, there is a setting that you must change. And it's only on these machines. If you do this on your own machine, you don't need to worry about it. All right? You only have write permission on your desktop and on the D drive. Okay? On these machines. So when we set up a new virtualized environment, we need to make sure that we create that in an appropriate place. So on these machines, you're going to click on File. Nope, sorry. Edit. Preferences. Right here where it says Workspace, if you've had me before, you're like, this feels familiar. Yep, it should. You're going to change it to the D drive. So you click on Browse, and you want to change it to the SSD, and then you want to make a new folder and make it your username. So ultimately, you want it to be D:/ your username that's a new folder. That's your workspace. Again, on your own machine, you don't need to worry about this step because you have write permission on everywhere. After you do that, you'll be good.
Where should the SSD?
It should be the D drive. SSD D. You might have to expand out the my PC or this PC. And then there's the SSD. Yes. Ubuntu. All right, did you get everything else?
I tried. They're up here.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Okay. Yeah, you're well on your way. And the last one is under ISOs. You're right. Linux distros, Ubuntu 18.04. For what? To get this? Edit, properties, preferences, I'm sorry. And that's why I want you to sit next to each other. You lean over and you say, Demetrius, how the hell do I do this? And if he doesn't know, right? So it's going to look like this. You click on this PC and then SSD. Yep. And then make new folder and put in your user ID. Yep. Nothing in your what? You got to go to the CSIT fixed drive. What is it?
I was trying to do it on my computer as well, but it wouldn't let me. It wouldn't let me download the. Where is it? Okay.
Oh, let's see. We're going to say all files. What are you trying? Oh, you're trying to open. No, you can't do that. You need to drag this down. That's the problem. So you're going to go, now you're going to go out, you're going to drag it over. There you go. Okay. All right. It's kind of important. I want to take my time, even if I lose time. It's important that you understand and you get comfortable with the VM situation because this is what industry is like. Everything is on VMs. Literally everything. Even your switches can run VMs today. They can run virtualized switches inside your physical switches today, right? Your whole world, I'm going to bring it down right now. Your whole world, everything you do on the internet is actually housed inside of a virtualized environment, inside of a physical machine. We're in the matrix. Fusion. Yes, just download Fusion and you're good to go. Okay? And it's under the same place. You can get it in the same place. All right? All right, so after we've done that, we're kind of good to go. Now, I'm going to show you how to install an operating system from scratch. And while it's installing, I want to give you notes. You need to talk I'm going to talk and ask questions as we go through. And then I'm going to give you some background on virtualization as it's talking. Yes? Did you make it? Did you say make new folder? When you found the SSD? Yeah. So you went all the way through, and then you got everything set up, and then make a new folder. You'll be good. All right. So we're going to say File, New Virtual Machine. And as I walk through this, you ask questions if you have them. But you're going to do this enough that you're going to be pretty familiar. But right now, many of you haven't done it. If you had me for 101, I did not go into the detail that I'm going to go into now, right? Demetrius. Okay. So your SSD is not showing up for some reason. You have two options. You can, I don't know what happened to your SSD. I don't know why it's there. Not there. So you have two options. You can move computers, or you can do it on your desktop. So you make a new folder called My VMs. Right? And you can do it there. No, don't do it on OneDrive. Do not do this on OneDrive. The whole point of the solid state drives is so we can create 5 or 10 computers running inside this computer. That doesn't work in OneDrive. That doesn't work in your H drive. Only on the solid state or your desktop. Okay? The communications are way too slow getting out to the internet. You would need like a 10 gig dedicated line to the internet to be able to make it run like that. Right? And that's a separation here, Shay. That would be, we have everything running here, but it's actually stored over here, right? Now, you ask a question. If I get too deep, just let me know, and you can kind of ignore this. When we get going, you'll come to this realization that there's hundreds of thousands of these things running in a data center, right? And what we do is we don't go out to the physical machine at that point. We have a bigger product from VMware called ESXi, which has vSphere, which enables us to be able to attach to one of those machines running out there. So we just say, I want to attach to this, and boom, boom, we're there. It's kind of like VNC, like Shane was talking about, only a little bit more robust. I mean, it's as quick. It feels as if you're right there on that computer. Whenever you use that. Yeah, it is. It's really neat stuff. All right, so we're going to do custom advanced, okay? Because that kind of cracks open and peels back some of the layers a little bit. We'll click on next. It's going to ask hardware compatibility. Windows Workstation 12 is fine. If you do this at home and you want to bring it back into here, it should still be fine if it says 15 and you bring it back in. Right? But it's easier to go forward than to come backwards oftentimes, right? This is more of a futuristic thinking, what am I landing my end product on, right? I'm creating it here, I'm testing it here, and then I need to place it out in the web, right? So I need to know what's running out there, right? So now it's going to ask us where do you want to install this from? Where's the installer disk? All right, the Ubuntu is what we're going to install. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, we used to have install media. You may have never seen one of these. It looks like a DVD, and it contains all the data files to be able to install. All right? We can make an image of that. It's called an ISO. All right? Some people say ISO. ISO, whatever, I don't care. As long as you realize that that is an image of a physical disk. It could be a DVD or a Blu-ray. It's an image, an ISO is an image of that physical disk. And that's what we downloaded from Ubuntu. All right? So we're going to go out and we're going to find that. So we're going to click on Browse, and you should have stored it probably on your desktop, right? I'm sorry, not either on your desktop or on the SSD drive. Doesn't matter where. Just find it. Once you found it, you're going to click on Next. Now, here it's going to ask us, what's your full name? Well, my full name is Mike Flynn. What's your username? I want to make my username my actual username, mflynn, because I type that thing in so much, I'm afraid otherwise. Now, password. Now, password. All your lives you've been told, make sure it's long and complex and uppercase and lowercase and special characters and blah, 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 blah. Listen, in this testing environment, you need to pick something that you're going to be able to remember or an actual existing password. I'm going to share with you the password that I typically use. PASSWORD exclamation at pound. That's what I typically use. All right? Why do I do that, or I do password 1? Only in this situation, at no other time ever do you even come close to daring to use such a password. The reason I have you do that is so when we come back on Friday and you say, I forgot my password. Password exclamation at pound, right? Capital P. Right? So either don't get creative and use a real password or use something really stupid and simple like this. Just make sure you remember it. All right? Now what this is doing is automating the Ubuntu process slightly for us. Okay? It is automating it slightly. It's going to like set up those things. Now it's going to ask, what do we want to call it? I'm going to call mine Ubuntu Master or Clean. And you'll find out why I'm calling it that in a little bit. Okay? Maybe I'll say clean because it's not really master would be like a master production out of that. We'll say clean. And then I'm going to click on next. All right. Now's where we can get creative. We need to know the limitations of our host. So I'm going to introduce 2 new words to you for virtualization. Physical machine in front of you. That's called a host. All right? Anything that goes on the host inside of your virtual environment is called a guest. Makes sense, right? Physical device is the guest. Physical device is the host. Anything else that goes on it is a guest. Number of processors. You can actually put as many as you want. It'll simulate those. You would do this based on how much resources you want the final destination to use, or it has. Our machines only have 4 cores and 8 threads. There's 32 gigs of RAM. Servers that you would be rolling these out to might have 128 cores with 512 gigabytes of RAM, right? You would need to decide how much resources your virtual machine is going to need whenever it's over there on its final destination. All right? I like for things to be a little bit peppy, so I'm going to say 2 cores, 1 processor, 2 cores. And then I want to raise the memory limitations a little bit to 4096. That's 4 gigs of RAM. Again, VMware will play with it and make you actually be able to set up guest machines that have more than the host has, and it'll balance it appropriately. But you need to be conscientious of that. You really don't want to exceed these things. All right? Notice how it goes all the way up to 64, but it tells you 32 is how much is in here. I put 4 gigs in. Next. All right. This is important stuff, and I have some diagrams that maybe we'll go over on Friday. Bridged. Bridged is when I take my host connection, right? And I use it. So it's as if my guest machine is plugged directly into the wall. All right? So on back of your machines, you can look and see, so you can physically see this. There's a blue cord coming out that's physically connected underneath of your tables. That's bridged. I'm going through connecting directly to the network. And this is really important stuff as we get into the real meat of this class, which is networking, right? So bridged. I'm physically running a cable from my guest machine into my network, right? It's a physical virtual cable, right? NAT. NAT stands for Network Address Translation. NAT, there's a virtual device, a virtual firewall set up by VMware in which you're segmenting any guest plugged into that particular switch. Network address translation. We're segmenting out, right? Now the switch, the firewall is connecting with our physical network, and then anything plugged into that segment could communicate with each other, but this segment internally couldn't communicate with this segment. Use host-only networking. You want to experiment with viruses? Fine. This is a safe environment to do this. There's a whole database out there that you can download. They have them all encrypted and everything. That would be the mode you would want to use, where you want two computers to communicate with each other, but you certainly don't want to communicating with your host, and you certainly don't want to communicating with the rest of the network, right? So we do host only, meaning they can only communicate on that host, and they can't communicate it with anything else. They literally can't get out to the internet unless you establish some type of another intermediary connection. And then the last one is don't use a connection at all. You got something super dangerous, right? You went out and you downloaded some viruses and some worms that are very real world in the wild. You got your hands on that. Don't connect it to anything. I want to play with it. I want to see what it does. So I take and I download it, and I get it in there, and then I disconnect it from everything, and I let it go wild and watch it blow up my computer and encrypt all my stuff. You ever want to experiment with those encryption viruses that you see? That's how you do it. You download it, you install it, right? You infect yourself, and you let it do its thing. So for us, we can just do bridged, and we'll go on to next. It's going to ask what type of an I/O controller. The LSI logic is perfectly fine. On the next one, it asks us what type of virtual disk do we want. If anybody wants to do my password cracking demonstration, you always want to do IDE. Otherwise, SCSI is fine. All right. Now it asks what kind of a disk file do we want to make. We're just going to do, we're going to create a new one. But what this enables you to do, take a look here. It says you can use an existing virtual disk. Those are the things that I made for you, right? Because we're not going through this every time, but I made these for you. So you could use an existing one, or you have the option of attaching to a physical, right? So you install, oh shit. So you click on the physical, you got a physical drive that you want to bring in and you want to analyze or you want to hook up or whatever, you can attach to that without any problem. This has to be physically attached to your computer, and then you can attach to it this way. We'll go ahead and we'll click on Create New. All right. We do need to be conscientious of the maximum disk size. When you start a new VM, the disk size is very, very small. It's like 512 kilobytes. All right? But notice it says maximum size. If you say maximum size is 100 gigabytes, and you fill that whole thing up, 100 gigabytes of your physical hard drive are going to be absorbed, right? So in our case, 20 gigabytes is probably fine. We're never going to fill that up, so that means we're going to keep it pretty small, right? So we'll go ahead and we'll say next on that. And then it's going to ask what the disk file name is. We can say OK to that. And it's going to say, what do you want to do now? You want to power it on? Yeah, you can power it on, only uncheck it because we don't have enough time. And click Finished. Oh, did my screen lock up? It's okay. We're done. Just uncheck. Just make sure you uncheck. Uncheck startup because we don't have time to start up right now. What I would like for you to do is between now and Friday, I'd like you to come back in and start this machine back up and let it go ahead and install if you can. All right? If you can't get it, don't worry about it. We'll play with it a little bit and you can kind of run through stuff. You can even do that first thing on Friday. Just show up a little bit early and run through it. And then we're going to talk more about virtualization on Friday. I want to show you things like snapshot and how to revert back to the snapshots. I want to show you some different tools that are going to help you in this class as we move forward. Yeah. Yeah, because we're just going to put that off until later because I have another class.
Is that like the end where it says finish?
Yes. Yep.
You said 20 was fine for the size?
Yes. That'll be fine for this. And for most of the things we're going to be doing, the defaults are smaller are going to be fine because we're going to be doing a lot of just networking stuff. And we're not going to put a lot of stuff on these. You would decide in the real world as a network administrator how big it's supposed to be, you know, according to what's supposed to be on it, right? Right now we'll just make them nice and small so we don't eat up all of our hard drive space, okay? I really enjoyed this classroom when I walked in because it was nice and toasty, but it's a little bit too nice and toasty. Whoo, man, is it warm in there? It's warm in there. I know that's weird to complain about with it being 115 below zero outside. It's 77. Temperature is set to 72. Something's broken. Dave's like, I'm glad I don't have to worry about that problem. Well, it's warm in there, man. It's warm in there. Air handler shut down. I heard it shut down a while ago. Now it's hot. Yeah. Hey, you guys want to have class outside? they say no. Yeah. Yeah, we'll go out. What's up?